really good news for Tennessee Titans fans, Houston Texans fans, and Jacksonville Jaguars fans. Not fans for the other 31 teams in the league. Not called the Indianapolis Colts. Maybe not for the Detroit Lions. But yet, coordinators in the pros that worked under Bill Belichick, they've all flopped. Now, McDaniel probably has as good of a chance as anybody because he's got Andrew Luck to work with. But you don't know what Andrew Luck is going to be like after a season benched. You don't know. I mean, certainly the Irsay family, only Peyton Manning can win with them. So, that's the case with that. I still, like I said with Butler, we know that he broke some rules. If it's true that he, was using drugs or so, you've got to, who knows? And I say that because there isn't concrete, yes, admission, all this. Wouldn't be the first guy, I think, to probably be using drugs the night before a Super Bowl or whatever. But nevertheless, his attitude after the benching was, and you heard it here, just why me? It's not a Bill Belichick player. Bill Belichick is about discipline. Bill Belichick is about the power of negative thinking, as Bobby Knight used to say. That might not work that well around here. People tend to be positive thinkers. In fact, oftentimes cockeyed, optimistic thinkers, and saying that less is more. However, there is something to be said. It's been successful for Knight. It's been successful for, say, Billy Martin. It's been successful for Bill Belichick, primarily because he has such a high player turnover outside of Tom Brady. That's the negative aspect to the power of negative thinking. As Bobby Knight said, still, discipline. Look, if what's being said about Butler is true, I see no recourse that Belichick had other than to bench him. And frankly, they had the worst pass defense in the AFC with Malcolm Butler. They can have the worst pass defense in the AFC without him. Let me just say now, moving on to something local, and we had Johnny Lynch, mayor of Unicoi, on a week ago. We'll have to try to get him on again. But yesterday it was announced that the town of Unicoi is going to make a bid for the Buffalo Valley Golf Course. Only one problem. The Buffalo Valley Golf Course is valued for more than $2 million. Unicoi is offering to buy it for $400,000. What would they then do with the property? That's the question there. And also, would the city accept, City of Johnson City owns it right now, would they accept such a offer? I mean, let me just ask you this. If you have a home of $200,000, are you going to accept $40,000 for it? You got to be really hard up to accept that offer. That's what the city of or the town of Unicoi is doing right now. Question though is, do they have the resources, even after a low ball offer, if it is acceptable, to run the golf course? Now, Michael Ballard, who owns the Johnson City Otters, said that he'd like to have the property to have soccer fields there, to have lacrosse fields, rugby fields. He'd like to get the budget in. Well, there are many people living right now, it's their residence, and turn that into a hotel that the teams coming into the area that would play at such fields would stay at. Problem there is the people that own the property, the homes around the golf course, they believe that that will lower their property values. Never a good thing. And they also, I am the only guy I know that talks about this, but what about the people now living in the Budget Inn? Can't just throw them out on the streets. It's unethical. I mean, you know that. It's immoral. So that's a question that needs to be resolved coming up. When you look at this, The other thing is that there's the wastewater plant that's on the property. Unicoi is asking the city of Johnson City, don't include that in this sale. There is, I believe, up until tomorrow, chance for the golf course. They're going to accept bids for it. One final thought, though, on this whole thing, and again, it goes into, can Unicoi maintain a golf course? Do they lease it out to somebody who can? What then becomes the future if Unicoi owns the team? We'll have to get Johnny Lynch or another person on to explain this or to share their thoughts. Here's all that I can say about this. I do wonder about our municipalities here locally running things like a golf course. Johnson City couldn't do it, so Unicoi is? How does that make sense? Look, I don't even like the city of Johnson City using or renting out Freedom Hall or owning that. I wish they'd tear it down. I think it's obsolete. Nothing was ever held there. You had, 5 events a year until the Bucks moved there. The Bucks don't even have primary scheduling abilities at the place. It offers fine sightlines for basketball. It offers nothing else. It doesn't offer a big scoreboard. It doesn't offer anything to do around the place. It does offer the feel of being subservient to a high school. I'm not necessarily suggesting the Bucks move back into the mini dome, but I am suggesting two things. If municipalities are going to own such facilities, be they golf courses, arenas, they need to run them better than what they are now. Certainly Johnson City lost money on Buffalo Valley, and they're not keeping Freedom Hall filled with events. Let's put it that way. It was a godsend for them when ETSU suggested that they'd like to play there. They've put a lot of money into the place, money that I thought, and I've said this until I'm blue in the face, would be better served with a new arena. Something 10,000 seats, something that would attract more concerts, more events to the area, like once played Freedom Hall when it was new. And also a big shot in the arm for ETSU basketball. What would a new arena mean for Steve Forbes or a future coach to recruit in? Mean a lot. Finally, when you look at the and such things, and I've often said this as well, you could build it with enough floor space, which Freedom Hall does not have right now, to have things like minor league hockey and indoor football in such a facility. Many more events, getting the area more cosmopolitan. What would it mean to the area to have an ECHL team, something Knoxville, Asheville, and Roanoke do not? It would give the area two things those locations don't have and really speak of its cosmopolitan nature. One, a major NASCAR track. Two, the best arena in the region. And the place that bands want to go, circuses want to go, that teams want to establish as their home, something more cosmopolitan. That's what I talk about in this era. I have mentioned this until I'm blue in the face. If we go back to 1990, Las Vegas and the Tri-Cities were the same exact market size in terms of a TV market. Exact maybe. I think Las Vegas was 90, Tri-Cities was 92. Now Tri-Cities is 97 and Las Vegas is 40. I'm not suggesting that we put slot machines at the churches. I don't think that's going to go around here. However, more of a sports more sports, more cosmopolitan. Oscar Goodman saw where that was going to go with Las Vegas. Look how his metropolitan area has grown. We've got more space to do it here than just about any other market in the country. What would it mean? It's what the area needs more than anything else. So, when I looked at these municipalities wishing to take on golf courses or arenas, I just asked, are they doing it right? In the case of Johnson City, they haven't. Losing money on a golf course, and really, even with ETSU at Freedom Hall, that's been quite the white elephant over the years. I'm Marky Bilson. I want to give you a reminder at the bottom of the hour, John Bonenkamp, Iowa sports writer. He voted ETSU into the top 25, is joining me. And then Chris Lowe, ESPN reporter. He did a lot of coverage of ETSU this past week. He'll be doing some work with them and some reporting and some stories on the ETSU men's basketball team and Steve Forbes come tournament time. J-Ray's Heating and Air in Irwin. From installation in maintenance and repair for your heating and air, locally owned, insured, and traded. Call Jape Keplinger, 948-8018 for your free estimate. That's Jape Keplinger, 948-8016. And if you missed that number, which again for Jake Keplinger of J-Ray's Heating and Air in Irwin, 948-8016. He's giving away free estimates. Missed the number? Well, why don't you just go back on Facebook here later on in the day, and you'll be able to see us slug this, and you'll be able to get the number that way. Also want to tell you tonight we will have on our airwaves a big game in the Three Rivers Conference. It'll be Sullivan Central at Unicoi County for the women, girls, females, whatever term you wish to use. That's a battle of the first place Cougars and the second place Devils. Or are they the Lady Cougars and Lady Blue Devils? Sullivan Central and Unicoi County. Forgive me. That's the top two teams. Then we will have at 8 p.m., also a pretty good matchup. These two teams played to a 97-94 4-overtime thriller in Bluntville earlier. So we'll be having those broadcasts on our 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities airwaves beginning at 6:30. That's for the girls' tip-off. Boys are at 8. It's brought to you by Health and Home Care, Jones and Church Farms, Unicoi County Insurance Agency, Unicoi Gas and Utility District, Farm Bureau Insurance, Irwin Paint and Body Shop, Clinchfield Federal Credit Union, the computer guy of Irwin, who is worth driving to Gay Street in downtown Irwin to go to, if nothing else to look at his picture of the beautiful Shania Twain that was autographed to him. Relay for Life of Unicoi County, The Dentist, Dr. Jason Cunningham, Irwin Utilities, Irwin Bonding, Unicoi County Memorial Hospital, Urgent Care of Irwin, Irwin Pets, and the Irwin Kentucky Fried Chicken. We're giving away a $25 gift certificate in tonight's ball game. I want to tell you something else. When we come back, we will be having, let's see here, I want to talk about the golf course. Quick mention of UT and UK playing tonight. And also something that's near and dear to my heart on Axl Rose's 56th birthday. I'm putting up my AC/DC tie here, telling you what's going on. Tri-City Sports Now.
Vehicles in the Tri-Cities. It means service. With certified service technicians and a state-of-the-art facility, we can take care of any service need. It means value with a large selection of stylish Buick models at great prices. It means precision with the professional grade engineering you'll find in every GMC vehicle. It means you can find your next vehicle at Crabtree Buick GMC in Bristol, Virginia, where your neighbors trade.
J-Ray's Heating and Air in Irwin is licensed, bonded, and insured. J-Ray's Heating and Air offers installation, service, maintenance, ductwork, and 24-hour service 7 days a week. Call Jake today for your free quote, 914-0192. Dependable, professional, and affordable. J. Ray's Heating and Air in Irwin.
Here's an update from 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities. Tennessee basketball in action tonight in Lexington, set to take on the University of Kentucky. Tennessee going into this evening's game with a number 15 national ranking, a 17-5 record, 7-3 in conference play. They're currently on a 5-game winning streak, where during that streak they are giving up less than 60 points per game. They have struggled against Kentucky and Lexington, as has everybody, as Kentucky does lead the series 90-16 in Lexington. The Tennessee women's basketball team, they're set to be back in action coming up on Thursday when they travel to Arkansas. They will have the College Sports Madness National and SEC Player of the Week. That would be Jamie Nard. She gets that honor after averaging 26 points and 10 rebounds in a 2-0 week last week. With a sports flash on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities, I'm Matt Pauley.
Well, I'll tell you this, if Tennessee can knock off Kentucky, Dick Vitale is behind the mic tonight, by the way. That's going to be fun. If that does happen, then it increases Tennessee's chance for really having quite the season this year. I mean, something that can be a real special season. Picked to finish 13th at the start of the year. Auburn was picked to finish 9th, of course, and now they're two of the best teams in the SEC. It's been a long time since the SEC has put in more than a half dozen teams to the NCAA tournament. One of them might just be the Missouri Tigers, because the last time Kentucky took the hardwood, they lost to the Missouri Tigers for the first time in their program's history.
Give Missouri credit. They did a great job and fought, and I thought we had our chances. Started the second half, and then we come down and do freshman stuff. And they go basket back, and all of a sudden we look up, it's 9. Like, what? What just happened?
You think that maybe, just maybe, John Calipari is playing a little coy. That's who is speaking there. Always loved John Calipari. 17-6 is Kentucky's record, ranked number 21. Tennessee, ranked number 15. You heard the all-time record in Lexington. Not good for the Vols, 90-16 in favor of the Wildcats. But the Vols are 17-5 going into this game. Now, why are the Vols number 15 and mighty Kentucky number 21? Here's what John Calipari had to say.
The biggest thing is we still refuse to pass the ball. I don't have the answer for that. And then when a guy runs a guy over for a shot, he says, no one's passing. It's almost like, I don't care if you're open or not, you're going to have to pass it. I don't have the answer right now, but you got to create shots for each other. The game's too hard.
John Calipari, I love you. Everybody I know who has had any kind of a relationship with you speaks glowingly about you. But John Calipari, why don't they throw the ball around? Let's face it, in this era of one and done, the players, they all are wanting to showcase their own scoring skills, and they all become a bunch of Tim Smiths. And so the systems are put in place by the mid-majors, the ETSUs and the like. Just a few minutes, I'm going to be talking to first John Bonenkamp. He's the AP poll voter who voted ETSU into this week's top 25, and then we'll talk to Chris Lowe, who's been covering the Bucks this past week for a tournament story, and we'll be finding more about that as well. Also want to mention here that, well, let's show you this here real fast. The Greenville Reds t-shirt. Do you know who led the American League in hitting in 1932? He was from Greenville. If you do, give me a call. Usually I like to take calls during our commercial breaks, but I'll make an exception here. If you can come into our studio at 101 Riverview Road, it's right off the interstate, then you can pick that up. 423-743-6124 is the number. But yeah, I don't ask easy questions. I don't know. You got to do a little research here and all that. But you know what? former American League home run and batting champions. That should be timeless in local sports lore. You should know who they are. Okay? You know who won a Heisman Trophy out of Johnson City in '66, don't you? Would you have if he had not gone on to coach the Florida Gators to a national championship? The South Carolina Gamecocks to an SEC East title? Would you know that? I don't know. A couple of quick notes. The Edwin Jackson being slain by a drunk driver who evidently is an illegal alien. Talk about sports and politics. That's going to be huge in terms of deporting illegal aliens. And that's going to be, Edwin Jackson, in my opinion, is going to be a martyr. The Colts linebacker who was killed by a drunk driver, who happened to be, like I said, an illegal alien, that's going to be a big play in the future. And in fact, and I hate to say this, but if you're looking for that, we spoke of a little bit before, that the NFL, why are ratings down? They've lost 22% of their white male audience. The NFL gets behind Edwin Jackson. If that becomes their social cause, those 22% of the white males will return. Trust me on that. Something else. Meanwhile, I would point this out. Did you see this? I actually, on my personal Twitter, put this up. There's, Colin Kaepernick gave $20,000 to a charity. And this is why people aren't watching it so much anymore. Of course, it's still wildly popular. Football isn't going anywhere. But Assata Shakur was somebody that this charity championed. And he is a person who broke out of prison after killing a guy and went to Cuba. And that's who Colin Kaepernick likes. He also tweeted out today, happy birthday to Trayvon Martin. Check it out. It was one thing. Let's see here. What else do we have in this circumstance? I wanted to talk a little bit about something near and dear to my heart. I mentioned before the break that it was the 50s. How is Axl Rose 56? How is that possible? That's what I want to know, first of all. Okay? Second of all, here's the thing. They're saying Axl Rose is 56 years old. I mean, at this point, then you start saying, well, how old is Mick Jagger now? About 20 years older, and you start, scratching your chin, and you start, because it's one thing to be 20 and 40. But when you become 56 and 76, then there's less, there's less difference at that point than 20 and 40. So when Guns N' Roses was popular, and all that, they're forever young. Now, they're in the classic rock element. However, it appears, and the stories are, and it's upsetting to a Brian Johnson fan like myself, that it looks like Axl Rose, reports are that he is going to be the full-time vocalist now of AC/DC. Now, personally, I think his voice fits in very well with their music. Lots of grit, just like Brian Johnson and Bon Scott before him. But it's disappointing, I think, to a lot of Brian Johnson fans. Of course, he had to quit the tour 2 years ago because of a hearing issue. And, in fact, was recently quoted as saying, look, I was going through the motions. I was not doing the job that I wanted to do, which was quite the telling comment, because before then, Angus Young, always saying mum's the word, and basically put out a boilerplate statement when Brian Johnson couldn't continue. Thanks for the last many years. We're now going to continue with a guest vocalist. It did seem as if the person I think has been rock's greatest frontman for a long time was being kicked to the curb. Rose, I thought, having him join AC/DC, well, hey, that becomes for AC/DC really thought of, if you want to say all-time greatest rock band, when you're able to recruit an Axl Rose, that's huge. That's even bigger than, say, Van Halen recruiting a Sammy Hagar. But I would point this out, that there was always the hope that at least Brian Johnson would do a studio album if AC/DC was going to do that. And then maybe you would have an Axl or another guest vocalist do the tour. By the way, Guns N' Roses, they're going to tour Europe this year, so get your passports ready. That's one of the few bands that I would go out and see. I do think that Axl has certainly been able to exorcise some of his demons. But yeah, the first time he shows up late to a concert, if it does happen, and hasn't happened yet with AC/DC, you wonder how that's going to play out. Brian's probably my favorite vocalist. Axl is my second. I love John Bowenkamp, and he's coming up next.
The year is 2018.